Back to you live again, Detroit. I came earlier, start giving you guys daily reports on what happened. News out of Chicago. Rapper FBG Cash was killed. Sitting in the car with a young lady, and he was killed early in the morning hours of either late last night or early this morning. I don't know if a lot of my subscribers are familiar with the war going on in Chicago. The war between O Block and the Flyboy Gang, STL, live off 63rd. FBG Cash was an up and coming rapper, a protege of FBG Duck, who was killed almost 2 years ago in Chicago's Gold Coast. Ironically, I was speaking about the violence when the news came in about this young brother. FBG Cash had took a picture by a mural of King Von, and allegedly he was a part of that the Dissing the Dead, where the gang members disrespect the memories and images of their ops. They do a lot of it in Chicago, but it's spreading as you look at the news. Now, I know a lot of you older people that follow me may not be familiar with the things I'm talking about, but you need to be familiar with what's going on in these streets and what's going on with the youth, because a lot of older people and younger people and kids, they get caught up in the gun battle. And, they're not saying if they have any suspects or they have any people of interest, as the police like to say. Because, again, we're talking about Chicago. We're talking about gang activity. We're talking about a war similar to the war in Iraq. Only difference is these people live only a few blocks from each other. O Block is not far from 63rd. O Block is near 64th and 65th in Chicago. And the Flyboy Gang has been going back and forth with, the guys from O Block for years. And the rift between GDs and BDs goes back to the 80s and maybe 70s. How long these brothers have been killing each other. Their uncles and fathers were killing each other. You had with the killing of FBG Duck, you had 5 individuals from O Block arrested and charged with that. Because FBG Duck, he made a song dissing a lot of his dead ops. Dead ops meaning opposite gangs and those members. He was famous for dissing T-Roy of O Block, Odie Perry of O Block. He made a song where he dissed him called Dead Bitches. You can Google it and you can see what the brother was saying. And it's hard to empathize with these brothers when they come out so blatantly disrespecting the dead and the families of, the deceased. It's almost fashionable now to do this. And it seems there's no end. If you think about all the rappers who have been killed, rapping is becoming one of the most dangerous jobs you can have is to be a rapper. And he was just signed to Rap A Lot Records with Jay Prince and had been in Houston securing the deal. And not only had not even been back in Chicago a day before he was murdered. You know, in a similar fashion, the FBG Duck of the Flyboy Gang. There was maybe 8 of them, but now it's down to 2 left from the Flyboy Gang, Dutchy and Young. My advice to Dutchy and Young, get out of Chicago. Dutchy and Young and the remainders of the Flyboy Gang division of the GDs, I think it's best for you brothers to leave Chicago. You have nothing to prove. You have nothing to prove. You know, it's just a cycle of madness and blatantly done in a public format. You know, you can look on No Jumper and you can see where FBG Cash in his interview explaining that he went and took a picture in front of a mural of King Von in Chicago to be disrespectful because that was his ops. There was no reason for him to feel it necessary to go to that mural. You know, we've seen young men in California in their gang culture go in front of the mural of Nipsey Hussle and be killed in a matter of weeks for doing this. I know this makes no sense to some people who may not be familiar with what's been going on in Chicago over the last several years. But this is a war. It's a war. It's more important. It should be more important to Black people than the war in Ukraine or any war in Afghanistan, because this is our people at war with each other and with themselves. You know, the message should be not only stop the gang banging, but really stop the dissing of the dead in the music. You've seen Young Dolph talking about not dissing the dead, but just talking about gang activity and being shot at and glorifying this. You know what I mean? It's like these young brothers don't have any regard for their own lives or going to prison. When it's up with them, it's up. You know, and the older guys and older generation, they're not giving them any information. I don't think most of them, if they're outside Chicago, even know what to say to this drill rap culture. Because, you know, the older rappers like 50 Cent and, you know, the rest of them, they rapped about being gangster, but they didn't live it on the level that these young brothers are living it. And they're using their phones and their laptops, making their beef not only a real beef in the street, but a virtual beef, a metaverse beef, a digital beef. It's almost as if their phones and computers are attached to the actual atmosphere that they're in. You know, a brother gets on Instagram and says what he has to say, not even realize that he's showing his location. They're looking at the videos and seeing the background and knowing what people are. Allegedly, they're saying that's how Pop Smoke was killed in front of Aaron B in California. Going live is showing this location, which would normally, in another world, on a different type of reality, wouldn't be a thing for a celebrity or an artist to let people know where he at, to maybe sign autographs or, you know, whatever they do in the entertainment business. But these guys have gotten to the point to where they cannot allow their location and their whereabouts be known, because the level of beef that they have. I mean, it's very sad. You know what I'm saying? It's sad because it's just as important as anything else that you see on the news to really dissect what's going on. That this is a culture. You know, they, I guess what you call them the ops, they laughed and were happy when King Von was killed from O'Block, not knowing that there's 100 King Vons in O'Block ready to take his place and ready to take on this beef. So it doesn't seem like it's going to end anytime soon. But the FBG faction of GDs in Chicago, you cannot win this war that you're in. You can't win it because of law enforcement. You can't win it because of the sheer fact you're outnumbered. And the last reason you won't be able to win this war is because you're outfinanced. So the last two remaining guys from the Flyboy gang, you should leave Chicago. Forget what people think. Forget going for bad. Save your life. FBG Duck signed the deal, and no, he should have left Chicago. He should have left. He should have left like Chief Keef and other Chicago rappers who made it. Got a deal and got a chance to get some money. Ain't you rapping and getting some money to get out of the hood? Or is it like they're saying about King Von? Your success in the music industry is not as important as your success in the street or being considered a real gangster. The level of this small war that's going on in the United States is something like a phenomenon, something you've never seen. And I know people my age and close to my age, they may not even know what I'm talking about. And that's sad to be so disconnected from the youth and disconnected from our people that you don't realize that right in front of your eyes, you're seeing a war just as important as any war that Biden or any other president tried to drag people into. Black people went to Vietnam when they should have been fighting for their rights here. They went to Korea when they should have been fighting for their rights here. They went to World War II and all the rest of the wars when they should have been fighting for their rights here and fighting their real oppressor. Black people went and fought in World War I and came back and were being lynched and killed. They went and fought in World War II, came back as being lynched and killed. The first black man shot in the colonial war in the United States war against Great Britain was a black man named Crispus Attucks. And he was killed in Boston, downtown Boston, in 1776. 1776, while his brother and his people were still slaves, he was helping these white people fight for their freedom while his freedom was in bondage. So black people, ever since the start of this country, we have been fighting on the behalf of the powers that be, when we should have been always fighting for our own freedoms and to protect ourselves. And to see these young brothers engaged in a war with each other, these strong, talented individuals, destroying each other in the streets, is sad. And it shows a sickness that we have as a people. that we can so easily destroy each other, but don't have none of the smoke like we should for our oppressors. And my older people, I want you to get on the internet. I want you to find out who these brothers are. What I'm talking about. Find out who was King Von and why was he killed. Find out who was FBG Duck. Find out who all these young talented brothers on their way to being millionaires who have been murdered over the last several years. And if I slipped and said 7, it's more than that. And nobody is really speaking to it on an activist level. Where's Tamika Mallory and my son and Al Sharpton and all these other people when they speak against these other issues where they might get a bag, but they sit back and watch as this war going on in these projects in these impoverished communities where young black men are. You mean to tell me that the white males between 18 and 35 are the most likely to be mass shooters that target black people, and then the same age group of black young men are targeting each other? This looks like genocide. It looks like genocide. And you can't really, I mean, you know, the young brother should rest in peace, but the young brother was a part of that culture of dissing the dead, making music and memes and going online talking about people who are deceased who died in the same violent way. You know, I seen online also FBG Duck's mother. You know, she's lost 2 sons. FBG Brick, which was another her son, was murdered in this beef, in this war in Chirac. And she's too, to me, I think she's too emotionally involved because she's lost 2 sons. So a lot of her content is full of the emotion and anger that she has from losing her 2 sons. So her message comes out biased as it relates to O Block and 600 other streets in Chicago, in that community, because the division is that great that she speaks to the pain about what happened to her sons. But her sons was a part of that culture that was killing people on the other side. So the other mothers are grieving over O.D. Perry, T-Roy, Von, and the rest of those guys. And the pain is reflected over here with these black mothers as well, as their progeny, their children, continues this cycle of violence, blatant and rampant violence on these streets. And the bigger threat is that this war is spreading through all the other major cities where black people live, because you have GDs and BDs in every city. And there's nothing for them to take on the same type of war in their individual cities if the wrong thing is said, is if somebody's in the wrong video with somebody else. That's enough. I usually don't speak on this type of topic because my audience is older people. Well, I can't say that, maybe it's young people too that watch me. But anyone who's not familiar with what I'm talking about, all you have to do is search any of those names, do a little research, and you'll see that this cycle of violence is astounding. It's astounding. you know, and you know, FBG Cash, he was picking up the mantle of FBG Duck to where he was going to be their next artist, and you know, probably could have been to the level of FBG Duck. You know, they called him Big Clout, but he also had the biggest bounty on his head in Chicago. You know what I mean? He was the most wanted GD in Chicago, to where it was upwards of over hundreds of thousands of dollars of money offered to kill this man about his music and about his lifestyle. So this gang banging is way different than anything we've ever seen with the Bloods and Crips in California. This is more than that. We watched that in the 80s and 90s. You know what I mean? But never to this level. So I don't want to dwell on it too much, but like I told, you know, my subscribers and followers, on a daily basis, I'm gonna try to give you the news that you may have missed. And this is an important piece of news. You know what I mean? And as of yesterday, and I think I made another video maybe a couple of days ago where I said Detroit is going the way of Chirac, of Chicago. And I'm gonna say this, and I'm not no conspiracy theorist or none of that, because I know what's going on is actual and factual. But when you voted in a person like Joe Biden, there was not going to be any money directed towards improving the Black community. If you look at all of the things that Joe Biden has ever said, and if you look at the condition of Black people since Joe Biden has been in office, it reeks of benign neglect. Benign neglect. There is no governmental caring about the condition and plight of Black people. So all of this may be by design. When you see the gas prices, when you see how we're sinking deeper into a recession, coming out of a pandemic with this cloud of despair hovering over Black neighborhoods and Black communities. This is the most destructive couple of years that I've seen in my lifetime. The wholesale destruction of Black lives played out on the internet and in social media. And you keep thinking that this brother had got a record deal that just got back from Houston with Jay Prince. After everything that he had said and did, to be caught lacking, to be caught slipping, that's strange. Unless he was backdoored, unless he was set up. In those hours of the morning, how would anybody know where he was? And then a young lady was shot with him. But I'm talking about the levels that you see that's happening with this beef. It needs the attention of caring Black people, need the attention of some elders. People need to step in and start speaking on this. You know what I mean? I know I'm an older guy, but I know that this needs to be addressed because I've been following it for years. You know? I know guys my age that's been GDs and BDs for over 40 years. And I know these young men are being born into this. They're being born into it. And really, they're being born in fear. If they leave the gang, fear of what the gang may do, what the gang may say about them. Fear of not being able to move around the community if you're not in a gang. So it's almost as if they don't have a chance unless somebody, some beneficent person or situation gives it some attention and provides other options. Because I guarantee you, they will take the other options if they're presented in a manner that offers real aid and not just lip service. Just like when in the 80s and 90s, they was talking about, oh, don't sell drugs and do something else to get money, but they provided no jobs and no answers. So if you caught between doing wrong and eating, you're gonna do wrong every time. So I want you to like and share this video. You know what I mean? And I really wanted to share with people outside of my usual subscribers, because if everybody is not aware and these things keep coming and catching everybody off guard, and you seeing in your news feed, well, who is this that is killed? You know, it's the equivalent of when we was growing up and I was young. Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 is beefing with the Osmonds, or the Spinners is beefing with the Temptations. The OJs are beefing with the Isley Brothers. Only difference is they're killing each other with AK-47s, switches, AR-15s. You know what I mean? Glock 23s, you name it. To be a successful rapper, you need body armor. So I'm not gonna keep you long. I didn't mean to be on here this long. I'm gonna say rest in peace, RIP, FBT Cash. State this again to Dutchy and Young. Maybe you guys should get out of Chicago. To all you rappers, stop dissing the dead. You know what I mean? Because when you diss the dead, you're really cursing yourselves. And to older people, start paying attention to what's going on. Everything's not going to be on mainstream news. So it's going to have to be reported through sources closer to the streets and closer to what's really going on. Signing out of Detroit. Stay up, y'all. Have a good day. Peace.